to explain on that, they needed a wrench on the International Space Station, so they made a 3D model on Earth, and then they sent the file up to space, and I think they 3D printed it in space.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Meet the Makers. You may know him from creating magic portals with his 3D printer, banana swords, Uno card accessories, and all kinds of other great stuff. Today I am joined here by Reed from Engineering Addiction. Reed, thank you so much for joining us. Super excited to have you on the podcast. Can you just start out and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into 3D printing, and just give the audience a little bit of an introduction for you?
Yeah, of course. So I was actually introduced to 3D printing by my grandfather because a few years ago, he was like telling me, there's this thing that you can just make whatever you want with it. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. And then my friend actually had one. So also introduced me to it. And then that following year, I think I asked for one for my birthday. And then, so I got that. And it wasn't like the nicest one. It was like a Da Vinci Mini Maker, I think it was called, which ended up breaking after like a year. So then I wasn't really into 3D printing that much. But then I recently got back into it like 2 years ago and have been like really into it ever since then.
That's awesome. I don't feel like I hear too many people who have another family member who got into it. That's definitely cool. And I know for me, at least, it would have been really nice to have somebody to go to right in the beginning that also related to 3D printing. Did your grandfather, did he 3D print himself, or was he just interested in the technology at the time?
He didn't have one or 3D print himself, but he had I think seen it on Facebook or something. And then he was just telling me about it and showing me videos of them. So I thought they were pretty cool.
That's cool. That's super cool. Now, your name is Engineering Addiction, on all your social channels. Would you say that was the first interest that you had in the world of engineering, or do you have a background in engineering as well?
I would say 3D printing is pretty much the first thing for my engineering background, but I have always been interested in making stuff and have always been really into building things and just taking whatever I have and making something out of it. Always took apart stuff when I was younger.
It feels like a lot of people who are in the hobby, when you look back, of all the things that they've always done, they have that background of just liking to tinker. And I think I see in your printers, it looks like you print on maybe an Ender or Anycubic right now. Is that right? Or do you have other printers that you guys use?
I have Ender 3 Pro, an Ender 2 Pro, and then an Anycubic Cobra, but the Anycubic Cobra doesn't really work.
That's fun. That's almost ironic. I have Unders and then I have a Snapmaker, which I recently got behind me, but I feel like everybody bashes on the Unders of, they break and they don't work. Personally, I love mine, so it's ironic that out of your printers, the Anycubic was the one to go, but I know one of the things that I see in a lot of your videos is you do a lot of upgrades on your printers, it seems. You have, for maybe somebody who's newer to 3D printing or maybe just got an Ender, any recommendations on what you would say are good upgrades to start, and then maybe what your favorite upgrades have been so far?
To start, an easy one is definitely modifying the fan shroud. That's one. I actually, on my YouTube channel, I made a full-length video about upgrading your fan shroud. And so I printed a bunch of different ones, and it was a pretty bad video because it was 2 years ago. But yeah, so I would definitely say making a fan shroud is one that I would start with. It does require you to take some parts off the hot end assembly to just put it all on there. But I would say that's a good one to start. Plus, I think it makes your printer look cooler and unique, so I like that. My favorite mod, I would probably say at one point I had this mod on my Ender where you could it was a little latch that you unlatched it and you could take the entire fan shroud and hot end assembly off for a quick change system. So you could put a pen on there and make it a drawing tool. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think it was by Proper Printing, who's a YouTuber who made that mod. I think you can find it on Thingiverse.
I'm gonna have to go look for that mod because I actually saw that video that you did, and my Enders haven't been acting up much recently, but for a while I felt like I was taking my fan shroud. I have the Ender 3 V2 and the screws are actually on the back, so I'm always trying to unscrew it, and it's such a nightmare to take the fan shroud off. So when I saw that, I instantly fell in love. I have to definitely print one of those. I saw also you had another video on there to your point of the fan assembly of showing like the difference of the water, like you had a glass of water underneath it and showing how much airflow there was. It's really cool to see how just a small change like that can seem to make such a difference on the functionality of the printer.
I was actually someone recommended that in my comments to show as a better way of testing it than just feel the print quality. They're like, you should put a glass of water under it to see like how big the like ripples are in the water. So I thought that was a pretty good idea. So I tried it out, and it's actually pretty interesting because like the one that I have, the fan shroud, blows on both sides, like straight at the nozzle. But the one that comes stock just blows on the one side. So that's why it's better to have it on both sides, because it's actually when the print head's going this way, it's blowing on the back, and when it's going this way, it's blowing on that side. So it's just better to have it on both sides so that it cools the filament as it's moving anywhere.
Traditionally, I've always just done the hand test. I'll put my hand under, and I don't think I'm the best detector for airflow differences, but I'm like, oh, it feels like a difference. So I'll definitely have to try that next time swapping something out of my printers. But coming back to that quick swap pad that you used to have on there, you mentioned that you had an attachment on there that you could actually use it for writing with your 3D printers. I've seen some videos on that. Have you ever tried that attachment before?
I have not, and to be honest, I'm not sure how that would work with G code slicing. I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube and stuff on how to get that running, but I haven't personally tried it. But I've also seen, I think Proper Printing did it as well. He put like a laser or something on his, so I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of like your Snapmaker.
Yeah, I think it was like right around the time that I got the Snapmaker, I actually ended up seeing it, but I think Undercell's like an additional attachment that you can actually put on there that makes it act like a laser engraver, which is pretty cool. I've seen videos of people have it where it writes like the actual lettering on there, and I also don't know how it works with the G code, but I always thought that would be something cool to experiment with. I've seen people make some like pretty wild art. With that said, one of the other things I've seen you tinker with in some of your videos is different types of bed adhesion with, I guess you could say, unexpected items. I saw you had ones with like icing and honey, but the one that surprised me the most of them all was Caro syrup. And I watched you do it, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is clearly a joke. But then it worked. When you did that, like, were you expecting it to work? Did you think it was just like a funny thing to try? Or like, what led you down the path of trying these random bed adhesion options?
So I had seen someone use syrup before, and I believe it was a joke. I think it was like an April Fool's joke or something that they like posted that you should use syrup. And I was just like, what if I just went around and tried like the most random products in my kitchen that I could try? So I just picked like the stickiest and weirdest stuff I could find, and I just started making videos, and they surprisingly did well. They averaged higher views than all the rest of my videos. So I just stuck with it for a little while, but I haven't done one in a while.
It got me thinking, like, what other bizarre things in my house could I use it for bed adhesion? For the people who are a little newer to 3D printing or are 3D printers themselves, can you just talk people through what bed adhesion like means and why you would be using sticky items for bed adhesion?
So there's a few different types of 3D printer bed options. Of the most popular are glass, and glass is hardest to get prints to stick because it's such a smooth and slippery surface that the prints, because they're just plastic, melted plastic, if you don't have your bed leveled correctly, they can fall off. Taller and skinny prints will generally get knocked off if it's not adhering to the bed very well. So a very common solution is just adding glue to the bed. That's what most people use. But there's also specific products like, I think it's called nanopolymer, for higher temperature materials like PEEK and stuff. But yeah, generally people use glue. There's also a company sent me some, it's called Lanier, and they sent me some bed adhesion like stuff. It's kind of like a little sponge that you like wipe on the bed, and it's like a really sticky stuff that only gets sticky when the bed's heated up so that it sticks to the bed and your prints like can finish and have a nice quality without it shifting on the bed.
I've never used that product specifically, but the purple glue sticks are my go-to, and they've definitely saved me more times than I can count on prints I just could not get to stick to the build plate. Recently, I've been using a textured metal build plate, still flexible, but it's just like really gritty on the bottom, and that it's like nothing doesn't stick to that, which is great. But I was watching your videos and I saw that it seems like you use a lot of glass build plates, and I was like jealous seeing how shiny the bottom of the prints are, and it's so nice when they come off of there. Would you say glass build plates are your favorite to use, or do you have something else that you like to experiment with?
I do really like glass because of the finish. I have never tried it, but I've seen people use carbon fiber build plates, and it gives you this, they're like super smooth, and they give you the same look as carbon fiber. So when you print in black, it looks like you have a carbon fiber bottom, which I really want to try that. So I just have to find where I can get one for my specific printers. But I'd say glass is one of my favorites. I like PEI, but I like it to have a smooth bottom on my prints.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the carbon fiber. I've never heard of that specifically, but what I have used in the past is, I'm not sure if you've seen them, they're called P-flats, and it's like a holographic patterns that they embed onto it. It's really glossy, glass would be, but then the patterns transfer onto the bottom of the print, similar to what you were saying about the carbon fiber. If you shine it in the light, it's got this like iridescent finish to it. It's really cool and really pretty. They definitely are a little more difficult to get adhesion on, and unfortunately, I imagine it's similar with the carbon fiber, but you can't use any sort of adhesion like glue sticks or whatever because it doesn't transfer it to it then. But yeah, they're really fun to experiment, especially if you're printing something where like the bottom of the print is actually like the showy part of the print. You said that you do all these different prints, experiment with different things. I know obviously the Caro syrup adhesion was one of your videos that definitely blew up. And you're no stranger to your videos blowing up. Like, you have some crazy viral videos. What has that been like? And what I think your biggest video maybe has 16 million or something like that views on it at this point. Like, when that happens, is your phone just blowing up, or what's that kind of like when one of your videos goes viral?
This is actually a funny story because my mom actually is a TikToker as well, and she has more followers than I do, but she's like makes food and stuff. So she's had a few viral videos as well, and she was super excited when that happened. And then, so when I had my first one, which was the one Caro syrup video, it was like, it got 200,000 views in one night. And I was like so excited. I was like, that was like crazy to me. And like the amount of followers you get from one video like that is like crazy. So like when that happens, I keep checking and checking to see like how fast it's going up and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's surprising to like that, like my personal video, like that many people have seen my video. That's just crazy to me. And I just can't even, like 16 million people is a lot of people. So it's still like processing for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Videos go get that big.
Yeah, I always do the math on a video like that, like 16 million videos. I'm bad at math. It's like a little less than 10%. Let's call it like maybe like 7% of, obviously everybody watching that probably isn't like in the US, or like maybe some people watch at the same time. That'd be like 7% of the country seeing that video. That's so wild to think of something like that. Yeah, now it's something really cool that you mentioned that I had no idea was that your mom also does TikToks. Which one of you got into doing TikTok first?
I started on YouTube first, and she started on Instagram. And then she, I think as a joke, she was just like, should I get on TikTok? Like when it was like first getting really big a few years ago. I was like, yeah, just do it, see how it goes. And then so she was the first one doing TikToks and stuff. And then I got lazy with making actual YouTube videos because I originally wanted to be like a YouTube creator, like strictly on YouTube. But then I was just like, it's a lot easier to make like a 15-second video, and the work versus reward is a little higher on TikTok. Started to go to TikTok more, and now I generally only do TikTok. And I do post my YouTube or my TikToks on YouTube, but I don't make long form videos as much anymore. But yeah, my mom was the first one on TikTok.
That's so cool. Does anyone else in your family do any sort of social media too, or is it just you guys?
My younger brother has a YouTube channel, but not a TikTok.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a really fun dynamic. I'm not sure how old you are. I think I might be like a little bit older than you, but I started on YouTube as well, and I started first making videos when I was like maybe 13, but back then that was maybe like 2008, 2007ish. That math might be wrong, but around then I think was like when I first starting on YouTube. It was like really new at the time, and I remember like telling my parents or my friends like, oh, I'm making videos in my bedroom and posting them on the internet. And it was like, it was really weird back then. People were like, what do you mean you're talking to the camera and posting it on the internet? Like, it wasn't like it wasn't normal back then. It's so cool to hear now that like people would have families where like multiple people in their family are doing it, and you guys can probably relate to, oh, this video went viral or stuff like that. So that's really cool to hear that you guys kind of have that dynamic. On that note, I guess with like certain videos going viral, when you're posting a video and it starts getting a crazy amount of views, do you sit there and think to yourself, yeah, saw that one coming, knew that one was going to go viral? Or has it surprised you what videos have popped off? And then maybe have there been other videos that you thought were going to do really well that just didn't quite get the traction that you thought that they would?
I did not think my first viral video was going to go viral. So I didn't expect that one. And to be honest, I think it was probably the song and the amount of people that were mad at me for putting that on my build plate, telling me that it was going to break my printer. It didn't, but yes, I didn't expect that one. But there have been some that I've expected to go viral, like the Nana Sword one. I thought that one was going to go viral, and that one got like 3 million or something. Sometimes I can tell, but a lot of times it's a surprise.
That's fun though. I guess it's like fun and frustrating. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I feel like sometimes there's almost a like an inverse relationship to how much work you'll put into something versus how well it does, which is weird how that works. I don't know if you experienced that on your end as well.
Yeah, I think that too. I just told my mom last night, like, the videos you put the least work into get the most views, and then the
It's
ones
so
you like
true.
perfect, they'll do the worst.
Yeah, I wish I know why that was. And it's like almost everybody who makes content that I talk to, they seem to say the same thing. But yeah, it's a really weird thing that happens. One of the interesting things you mentioned about the video with like syrup on your build plate is, oh, people got mad and they said you were going to break your printer. I've noticed for me that's like kind of actually something that almost not guarantee, but like I always seem to see a correlation between videos where I guess I'm doing something wrong, always getting a lot of traction, a lot of engagement. People just seem to love to comment on a video and correct or express their feelings anytime you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. That's why I do that sometimes, and I've seen other people, I don't know if you unnecessary inventions.
Yeah, yeah.
He talked about it in a podcast where he said he purposely says stuff that's wrong so people will comment. Like, he did one about like how many Tic Tacs were in a thing, and he said the wrong number on purpose. And he was like, he knows that people will comment that and try and correct him, but he all does it on purpose just to get people to comment. So I try and do that sometimes too, just because they do the best.
Yeah, it's funny how little strategies like that, if you're not paying super close attention, you won't ever catch in a video, but seem to be able to have such a big impact on driving engagement and just getting people to leave comments and all that stuff. It's cool. I love nerding out about that kind of stuff. One of the strategies that I never noticed, just like when your content will come up in my feed, I just normally engage with your content. But then as I was preparing for us talking today, I was going more like systematically through your videos, and I noticed you'll post like multiple versions of a video with like slight variations to it. And this is a strategy I've actually heard people like have really great success with. Have you seen, I guess, any positive like trends or reactions to mixing up those variations on your videos?
Yeah, I definitely have, because sometimes I know it's a good video and I know it has potential. I just might not have gotten it right on the first try. So I like to try and experiment with it with a few videos. So I generally try and do 2 or 3. And it also helps with being able to like recycle your content and being able to post more consistently, because like 3D prints take a long time to finish. So you can't always have a print and video up and ready in time. So I like to repost what I already posted with variations so that I just stay in the algorithm.
Yeah, it's a really clever strategy, especially like you said for 3D prints. I know when I was newer to posting content, there'd be so many times where like I planned out this whole video in my head and then like the print just failed or something went wrong and then a couple days were going by where I didn't have content. Really great for that sense. And what was interesting too that I noticed as I was again like scrolling back through is I had seen like that like some of the ones where you had variations on, I had probably gotten served like one version of the video but not the other. So even in terms of having your videos hit a wider percentage of your audience, it's probably really great for that too, because it's certainly not the case that every time you post a video everyone's seeing it. So really really just like an interesting strategy across the board, and definitely something I'll have to kind of experiment with going forward.
Yeah, I would definitely say you should try it.
Another, now listening to you talk about all these different things about like how you post videos, how you make videos, like you seem very in tune with how best ways to get engagement, hitting different audiences, things like that. And you did touch on it before, but would you say you have a goal of being a full-time content creator? And what are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely an idea. I don't know if I would ever be a full-time content creator, but it would definitely be. I love making videos and stuff, but making that a commitment, especially with how quickly things could change, like TikTok getting banned or something happening in that sense. I think it's a little bit risky, but it's definitely an idea, and I have definitely considered it.
You seem like very on top of kind of everything that's happening and how to best optimize your videos, which is really cool, whether it ends up just being like a passion or a full-time career. It's interesting what you said about the TikTok ban. As that's been developing in the news, has that impacted your feelings about being on the platform at all, or like thoughts about like maybe like posting more onto other platforms?
I like TikTok still. I think if it does get banned, there would definitely be something that will replace it very similar to TikTok. So I think posting on other social medias is good. And I've been considering starting an Instagram to post like reels on there. It hasn't really changed my perspective about posting on TikTok specifically. I still am going to do it until, if it does get banned, it gets banned. But I'm going to do it till that happens.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I don't know if for you, like you just find it to be like a great place in terms of, I guess, like intention and or pardon me, attention in terms of how much attention you can gain in relation to how much work you put into videos. Or I know a big thing for me as well is at least in the 3D printing space, I feel like it's the best community. I cross post content on YouTube, and I haven't done Instagram that much, but a little bit there. But at least to me, it seems like the community on TikTok is really strong.
Yeah, I was having some problems with one of my printers a while back. So I just posted a video about it, and people were like, they're ready to help, and they always comment like what I should try and what I should change. So I feel like that's great. And most people are pretty supportive in the community and will be like, love what you're doing and stuff. I mean, there are occasional people who will say mean stuff. That's always going to be there. So I think it's a great community on TikTok. There's a lot of people who like 3D printing on TikTok too. I think it's a great place.
Yeah, for sure. I got into doing TikTok exactly when I started 3D printing, and really without all the help that I've had for everybody on the platform in terms of troubleshooting different things and helping me do upgrades and things like that, like I don't know if I would have stuck with it. And like you said, most people are really supportive. Every now and then you'll get the kind of rogue person out there, but yeah, I think it's a really great community. Speaking of those rogue people, I know on my side, I've gotten the occasional person who will go down this tangent of, oh, 3D printing is like this useless technology, or like you can't make anything good. You seem to make like fun functional prints. Do you ever encounter those people who have that negative perspective about 3D printing, or how has that reaction been on your side of TikTok?
Yeah, I do get those people who will be like, what's this for? Like, why did you make that? And or like 3D printing is useless, which generally I just try and think of something funny to respond with. One person commented on, I had made this like thing for cutting wrapping paper that would slide the wrapping paper through with a little knife blade in there. And I made that, and someone was like, just use scissors, but they spelled scissors wrong. So I just said, just learn how to spell scissors. So I just try and respond like funny stuff like that. But I think they don't get the point. I think because obviously I could just use scissors, but I think it can be hard for some people to use scissors though, especially people who are older, like my grandmother. She was like, "That's really cool." So I think some people just don't understand like why I would make this stuff. But I could probably make a video about like why I make this stuff, but I mean, it does improve engagement if they comment. So
Yeah, it's almost like that thing, like no such thing as bad publicity. It's no such thing as a bad comment. And I don't know, I try not to like engage too much with those people, but it is fun to go and troll them. And it's like best case scenario when, like you said, they like spell something wrong or there's just something that doesn't make sense about the comment. That's always super fun. It's what you were saying though about that you specifically, maybe for someone like your grandma who has a harder time using scissors or things like that. I saw for a while you were doing a series where you're making functional prints for people who had disabilities, and you had a lot of cool things in there. Can you talk people through who maybe haven't seen those videos, like some of the things that you were able to make that help people who might struggle with those day-to-day activities?
yeah, I made first thing I made was a little thing that helped open the tab on soda cans. So it was just a little thing that like scooped under it and helped you like turn it to open the soda can, because getting your finger under the little tab can be hard for someone with a disability. So having that there is a lot of help. I also made a one where like it helps with buttoning shirts by going through the little button and pulling it through. And there's like actually a whole TikTok based solely off of making stuff for people with disabilities. I forget what it's called, but that's where I got inspiration from there. But there's definitely a whole community for that on TikTok with a lot of great prints like the ones that I made.
Yeah, I know exactly what account you're talking about, and I also cannot remember what the name of them. I'll have to look it up and post it in the comments of this video as well. But yeah, it's just like another one of those things. When I first got into printing, I saw like a lot of people were just like making like dragons or other articulating models. But I think the deeper I get into it, like the more you see like how wide of a range of stuff you really can. I want to say, I think it might have been your video, or maybe I'm mixing up with somebody else's video that I saw earlier, but I know there was like that instance where at the International Space Station, they had needed like a very specific wrench.
That was my video from a while back. But to explain on that, they needed a wrench on the International Space Station, so they made a 3D model on Earth, and then they sent the file up to space. And I think they 3D printed it in space, which is actually pretty cool because I didn't even know that was possible. But yeah, it's definitely a fast growing hobby.
Yeah, I never really thought about like the logistics of 3D printing in space, but the good news is it doesn't seem like you really need gravity. I'm not sure if you've ever seen Emily the engineer on TikTok, but she has these videos. She actually mounted, I believe it was one of her unders to the ceiling of her garage, and it was printing upside down. And it's really cool, like all the different crazy things that you'll see people do with their printers, and whether it's like the most practical or not, it's fun to just see how people's minds push the machines to different places.
Yeah, I saw that video. That was interesting. I think she was trying to like get the resonating frequency or something out of like when it was like shaking or something. Very interesting solution though.
Coming to the goofier side of 3D printing, another thing that I saw you having a series of was printing little feet and putting it in your sister's bed, like all over like her closets, things like that. First of all, I have to know, has she found any of the feet and confronted you on it?
Yeah, she found. So there's the first series that I did. She did find them after like 4 days because I guess I didn't hide them well enough, and she kept seeing like little pieces of them, like little. Because I put one like on top of her fan, and she said she thought it was like painter's tape, so she went to take it down, but then she found them, and then she just kept finding them all over her room, and she was like, "How many are there?" And she knew they were mine because I'm the only one with a 3D printer in my family. Yeah, she has confronted me about it, but then I started a second series and she saw the TikTok, and so I had to block her.
Yeah, I guess it's all in good fun, but like, how is your family's reaction to like you doing 3D printing in general? Do they also have an interest in it, or as you're printing and like hiding stuff around the house, are they like, enough already? What is their reaction typically?
I'm the only one who's like really interested in it in my family, but my mom is always, what are you going to do with all these things that you 3D printed? And I'm like, I don't know. So I just have like boxes in my basement filled up with all different 3D prints and stuff. But yeah, I'm the only one in my family that really does it. But my brother keeps saying that he wants to get one and try it out too, but he just never has gotten around to it.
Yeah, I also I've only been printing for about 6 months now, but slowly but surely my office is starting to like fill up more and more with prints. So I'm gonna have to figure out something to do with them over time. But same for me, my family's always, why are you printing all that stuff? What are you gonna do with it? But well, I just enjoy the process, honestly. Even if I never use the item, it's to me, part of the fun is just making it in the process of it. Another thing I saw you had done with your sister and your dog as well was you were experimenting with the polycam app. And for people who aren't maybe familiar with that app, it's like a LiDAR scanner that lets you, in the real world, take videos of objects and then it converts it into 3D models. Have you experimented any more with that since that video? And I guess going off of that, do you do any of your own 3D modeling or do you tend to just kind of use other people's models?
So I have done like a little bit more experimenting with that. I've done some more scans, but I've had trouble like actually being able to print the models because you can only export it for free in one specific type of file, and you have to use Blender to like actually work with that model. So then it was like a long process because you had to go from polycam to Blender, and then I use Fusion 360 for most of my modeling, to Fusion 360 to then slicing it. So I haven't really done that much more with it, but I have dabbled in 3D modeling, and I'm not very good at it, but I've definitely tried. I started Tinkercad like a while ago, but I've recently been trying Fusion 360, but I just try it for fun, try and make the best thing that I can with my knowledge.
I honestly have so much admiration and respect for the people who make these amazing models because I know when I first got into 3D printing, the same thing. I started in Tinkercad, and then I have the most experience in Nomad Sculpt, which is more similar to Blender, but I'll go into it with a very simple idea of what I want to make, and I can just spend like hours, and I look back at it, and it's never quite what I expected it was going to be. Yeah, just cannot express how much appreciation I have for all the people who post their models to Thingiverse and Cults. Another thing I've seen, a video that you talked about you were going to have, and I'm not sure if it came in or if maybe it just didn't work out, but did you ever end up getting to use Coprint? I think it was like a multicolor printing system.
It got stuck in French customs for a month, and then it got here about 2 weeks ago or so, and I have been working on trying to get it like up and running because I'm new to multicolor 3D printing like that. So I still have to figure out like the color changes. It'll change the color, but the filament comes out a little too thick to pull it back through the tube. So I have been in contact with their support team and trying to get it up and running. But yeah, there should be videos coming soon about that.
I'm excited to check those out. I watched that video and instantly I ran to their website, and it's funny you say it got stuck in French customs. I saw their pricing was in euros, so I figured it must be somewhere in Europe that it was shipping out of. But yeah, I likewise don't have a bamboo or anything that can do multicolors. So I've seen, I think it's called maybe the Palette Pro, or maybe I'm misremembering what it's called, but I think that one's like a little more expensive. I've looked into that one. I think there's maybe one other one, but it's always in the back of my mind of something that I would like to get. I don't make a ton of prints where I would need it, but it just seems like a fun option to have to be able to run the multiple colors. Do you know if you can use, I think you use a combination of Cura and Prusa Slicer, but can you use those slicers still to do multicolor, or do you have to switch over to something different that supports that?
You can use Prusa Slicer because they actually, Prusa makes the MMU unit for their printers. So you can use Prusa Slicer and you're able to like color the prints in there and everything. I'm not sure about Cura because I haven't tried that one yet. I'll have to do some more investigation, but I believe you can.
Good to know. Good to know. I've never tried Prusa Slicer. I hear really great things about it. I actually didn't know until watching your videos that you could use a Prusa Slicer without having a Prusa, which I guess makes sense now. But yeah, I'll have to try out their slicer because I think they have a few more settings in there that maybe aren't offered in Cura, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think they might have some proprietary features in there. I don't know if proprietary is the right word, but a feature specific to Prusa Slicer.
Yeah, it seems like for a while they were like the what I guess would have been considered the cutting edge technology in the industry, but it seems like now more recently they've fallen behind after Bamboo's come out.
Yeah, I love the Bamboo Lab X1 Carbonite Golden really badly, but it's a little expensive. And I don't know if you saw, but Prusa just came out with the Mark IV. So I guess they're trying to come like rejoin the swing of things with the Mark IV because it's supposed to be like a lot faster, but it still is a bed slinger. That'll be interesting to see how that sales wise that one does compared to like the Bamboo.
I really want one of those, but it's also expensive considering I'm just a hobbyist, but really cool machines. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll add one to the collection. With that said, Reed, it was such a pleasure talking to you today. It was really great getting to dive into your content and learn just a little bit more about your background. So with that said, as we wrap up here, would you like to point people to where they can check out your content and keep up with all the projects that you're working on right now?
You can find my TikTok is at engineering addiction. I think it's engineering_addiction. And it's the same for YouTube as well. And that's really the only two platforms I'm on right now. Might be expanding to Instagram, but yeah, that's what I'm on right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. And with that said, that has been our episode of Meet the Makers. We will see you guys next time, and thanks so much for tuning in.